did approve the draft budget proposals of the Ministry of Finance. We are told that Uganda's external debt was or has now grown to about 1.5 billion US dollars, which is about 4.5 trillion Ugandan shillings. And the question is, how is this really going to play out in the grand scheme of things, where we say, well, we are generating over 80% of our budget from domestically collected revenues, and yet on the other hand, we are getting a huge external debt to this magnitude. How and when shall we pay it off? But of course, to discuss that and many other stories, I have with me Julius Mukunda, the programs coordinator of the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, which many of you know as CS BAG, not the other polythene bag or other bags. Julius, good morning.
Morning, Simon.
Put us into the budget picture. How are we standing from where you stand as a civil society organization? How much engagement have you had with the government, especially with the Ministry of Finance, to ensure that the proposals are within what we call cutting our cloth, cutting our coat according to our cloth?
I mean, again, is for this especially, I think, I mean, even over the years, we are seeing increasing the CSOs engaging in the budget process.
What is CSOs?
The civil society organizations.
Let's now try to speak in not logarithms, because people who are watching you are not members.
Okay,
they are not stakeholders who are in a symposium, so
we are
that they can
seeing
share
more
best
citizens
practices.
engaging in the budget process. If I can, we can speak English. Now, that is good. That's number one.
How are they involving? You see, there is one thing of saying citizens are getting involved in the budget project. How?
Simply,
I'm a citizen. I have not seen myself in any involvement.
There are more planning and budget events being attended by citizens at the local level.
Oh, are they?
Even at the parliamentary level right now, you are finding that there are more citizens going to make petitions, going to present their proposals, and we are seeing even parliamentary committees actually getting some time to listen, which was not a bit previously. That's a very good sign, Simon, and it's very important. But the other important element also is that we are seeing that our budget is going to be at 18 trillion. That's
Ugandan shillings.
Ugandan shillings. And out of that, URA is going to collect 11.3.
Good.
Which means that we have a gap, which we need to pay. And to pay that gap, government either have to get some grants or you have to get some loans. And that's why you're quoting the figure of 1.5 billion US dollars. Simply because is that we are spending beyond our means. However, there is a point we need to talk about here, is that borrowing is not bad, Simon. Borrowing is not bad. But if we borrow for a wedding, that's what is bad. But if we borrow for investment, that would be okay.
What, marriages are not investments?
So the most important part is what are we borrowing for? And that stands for us as citizens. That's our major concern. What are we borrowing for? If we're borrowing for Karuma, that's perfect. That's okay. At the same time is that you can be borrowing for Karuma, but do you have the capacity to pay back the money? We've just landed on a scenario whereby this financial year, we are going to borrow domestically 1.5. But in terms of paying our interest payment, we have budgeted for 1.3 to pay for interest payment. So there is that scenario of saying now that you are actually borrowing to pay back the interest rate. You're not actually
of another loan that was acquired.
Yes, you are digging a pit to fill the.
You dig one pit to fill the other.
To fill the other.
So that you remain that vicious cycle.
That's where we are beginning to getting worried. And if you remember also that the last supplementary expenditure, it was 800 millions. Out of that, half of that was going to pay for the interest payments.
Mukunda, you will agree with me that I would not remember such huge figures, especially given the fact that I don't even remember how much was on my bank account just a few days ago. And that's where the biggest malaise is, that you see, this government behaves exactly more like its citizens. And I don't know how the citizens come in to advise the government when they are living exactly like their own government. I know citizens here who live way beyond their means, and those seem to be the majority. You find someone whose income is 1 million, but he clearly lives their life like he earns $1 million. And oftentimes they will borrow in the form of government, of saying, I close one hole, I dig one hole to fill another. So don't you think that many a times we get the kind of government we have because of who we are as citizens?
No, actually, one time the president said that, we said, ministers were corrupt, and said, but it is a reflection of what the Ugandan society is. Yeah, because but at the same time, I think that we need, the center must hold. at the end of the day.
I thought the center is the people. The people don't hold this whole thing together.
The center must hold, and I think we have very good people. Even you, Kasati, very good people.
That's now the presumption that none of you make the mistake.
Very good people.
You see us here in the morning and you think we are good.
Who can really take us a step further than that? Especially when we come to say, I think it's high time we stop spending extravagantly.
Mukunda, you've never been in a situation where you realize you're doing everything good, but everybody else is doing the wrong thing. I mean, look at being in the traffic in Kampala. You are following your lane, you are just following traffic lights, you are obeying everything. But there is a situation where everybody will start doing just the wrong thing, and you realize that in fact you who's doing the right thing are in fact the one who's doing the wrong because you are the minority. So many times, otherwise well-meaning and good people find themselves in a situation where they are the minority, and you know what democracy is? It's the tyranny of majority over the minority, no matter whether they are wrong.
And you know
right.
why? Systems have crumbled.
If at all they were there in the first place.
Systems are there. By the way, there are two institutions I give respect in this country. One is the Bank of Uganda. If this institution was not working well, these banks would have really taken all our money and possession.
Why don't they?
Yes. We have seen a stable industry.
It would have been worse.
I mean, very worse. UNEB, my wife was saying, no, but let me tell you, I think I still give credit to UNEB. Despite its problems, I still give it to give them credit. So I think there are institutions here that are still working, that if we can give them extra resources or give them some particular attention, we can take a step further. Simon.
But now government is here borrowing to give these institutions more money, is borrowing to ensure that certain things are running, and you in civil society are saying, no, you are only digging a hole to cover another hole, you are spending beyond your court. So in this situation, where do you want government to turn to?
Let me tell you one problem that we're having in this country. I think budgeting for key core functions of a sector is what is missing. And let me give you one specific example. Last year, we went to Parliament and told them that UNEB has not budgeted for marking of exams. UNEB had budgeted for other things, but they had not budgeted for marking exams. And we told them...
Why didn't they?
And we told them during the financial, they will come for a supplementary budget. Because
no, why didn't they? Isn't that a hallmark of incompetence? Now, and here you are waxing lyrical about how...
Let me tell you what happens. What happens is that because they have so many demanding activities, they realize that if I budget for a workshop, it is not going to come out. Rather, let me leave out marking of exams. I will bring it at the supplementary exam. When I say at the supplementary expenditure, when I say I don't have money for marking, everybody will go. Say, how can that happen? Everybody will go up and down.
Julius, why do we always find every excuse below the sun to justify our incompetences?
No, sometimes I think it's a question of, we are telling the Minister of Finance, why should you pay money for something that is not core function of a sector? And the ministry is saying, no, it's what they gave us. They give us their plans and we pay. And I think somebody must be able to say, I think we'd rather not to do this, we should do this one. I think that is lacking in our system.
Julius, isn't it easier said than done, especially when you're outside the theater of activity? I mean, you as civil society organizations can huff and puff for all you can. I mean, that's what you're paid to do, to always poke holes and find problems. Because, I mean, I've been seated here with you here. I've not had not one solution, but I've had 1 million problems. So
let me tell you.
You put yourself in government's shoes. I mean, put yourself there. How would you have done it? And we're not considering it on the basis of ceteris paribus.
There is one thing we have told the government to do, and there are so many proposals they have taken on board. Out of our advocacy, the single treasury system. It has worked.
We would never be sure it was your patent.
We were part of it. I can't say we're 100%, we were part of it, we started it. The Salary Review Commission. It's an idea that we started a long time ago. We are glad it is back, it is on the table.
Of course, we know that ideas don't have exclusivity. Someone in government could have been working on
that. But I'm very sure we are part of that. I mean, the Public Finance and Management Act. This is the law. I can tell you, we contributed more than 50% of it in terms of ideas, in terms of the inputs that we made. And it's one of the best laws. And let me tell you two things that were done into that law. There are so many things. One is that the permanent secretary and secretary of the Treasury is not supposed to appoint anybody as an accounting officer if they still have issues with the Auditor General. It is there. And that was ours. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Up to now, the list of accounting officers is not yet out. Do you know why? The PS said it recently that most of them still have issues. And I think for me, that's a very good way in terms of, it's a step further in terms of prudent financial management.
Tell me something, Julius. Do you actually think there is something called prudent financial management with regard to the way the budgeting and financing of this country is concerned?
Do you know what, Simon? Despite our government having problems, I've never lost hope in it. I still have hope.
So we are riding on Julius Mukunda's hope?
No, on my government, that there is hope, that there are some still good things that are being done, and we have challenges in fulfilling others.
On the balance of probability, where hope is to be measured against the actuals on the ground, where are we faring? On a seesaw, which one weighs heavier than the other? You have more hope than the activities to be done, there are more activities than the hope that you hold.
No, I think there is more hope, Kakasiat. I think if I compare myself in 2000, for example, I think we are doing better. We are seeing revenues are increasing.
That's not to mention, of course, the exponential increase in population.
We are seeing more concentration in the road sector in terms of investment. We are seeing more water points being opened up. We are seeing in terms of health, we are seeing, more funding to the health sector itself. If you look at the enrollment rates of UPE, they are increasing, they are high. Yes, we should question about the quality, the rest of it, but you can already say there is just a step ahead moving forward, and one thing can be fixed, and then you can get better.
Perhaps, of course, someone will argue that the usual malaise we have in Uganda is taking it as it is.
I think as Ugandans,
half a loaf is better than none at all. But if I can, as we conclude this one, Julius, we have a budget that is going to be presented to us.
On the 11th of June, actually.
Exactly, 11th of June, and so we are exactly 1 month away from the budget date. What are some of those salient issues that you think we're going to come out very glaringly to, one, indicate how government is going to raise revenue, and what do you think will be the priority areas where government will spend in the next financial year?
And the first priority area, I think, is roads.
That's for expenditure.
Expenditure.
Roads or just infrastructure, which includes, of course, electricity?
No, it's Ministry of Works, where there's UNRWA, DACA, KCCA grant for these roads, just major roads. We are seeing serious investment in energy, but there's something which has come up, and it is disturbing. Accountability sector actually is taking second, 16.4% of the entire budget, almost second to the roads actually.
Accountability. Who are these?
And that's
where the 1 million.
That's the one where Minister of Finance is, and that's where the Auditor General, the Auditor General and accountability sector groups. But I think the biggest part is about payment of interest payments, treasury operations. I think that's very worrying, that we are really spending so much money on that. And
where do you think that government is going to concentrate with regard to taxing to ensure that they get this money as well?
In terms of taxes, I think government has not, the challenge that we have not expanded taxation base. So we're seeing more getting money still from the corporate.
The same old people.
The same old. Me and you are going to still pay the same things.
Not pay the same things, pay even more, because we've got subsidized the others who wake up in the morning.
Yes, and we told them, why don't you start the road tolls? We don't know how many houses we have in this country to tax for property tax. We don't know. We just land and then you want to tax, and then you don't. The compliance is so low.
Well, sadly, when they start taxing land, it will still be the same few who own my.
But at least there are so many people who are getting the landlords at least can be able to start paying some money. Simon, I think we can get money from that. So, and we are telling them, let the landlords not pay, let the tenants. Because if you collect at the source, it is easier than the landlord whom you pay and then he flies to London. So that's their part.
Always very interesting having this discussion with you, Julius Mukunda, the programs coordinator at the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, or what many of you call CS Back. Let's take a short one and return it, Simon says. So, of course, you've heard from the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group that certainly, whereas there could be glaring challenges in the way government handles fiduciously our economy, there is tremendous hope that things are running for the better. And, of course, there are certain concerns that they have raised, especially to the ministries and, of course, to the other powers that be in government. And they're hoping that in the next 30 days or so, this will be reflected in the national budget as will be read to us on the 11th day of June. We will continue our coverage of the drama towards the budget, and of course we'll also give you extensive coverage as NTV for the budget day and the implications of what the budget will look like and what it means for you as an individual. But needless to mention, productivity. Go ye out there, get productive. The collective sum of your productivity, my productivity, and everyone's productivity is what possibly will contribute to the development of this country. That's not to mention that, of course, we will always whinge and whine about bottlenecks like corruption and others. But again, like they say, let's do our part and wait to point fingers where others have not done their part. Have a good morning and stay tuned to NTV.